There is a door you have shoved when it actually wanted you to pull. You walked up to it, you saw a flat metal plate or a nice handle, and your body decided, all on its own, to push. And the door did not move. You did it again, harder, a little embarrassed now, and someone on the other side gave you a look, and only then did you spot the tiny sticker that said pull. That door fought you. It made you feel slow and clumsy for a second, even though you are not slow and you are not clumsy. The door was just badly made. Here is how it happens. It is hot out. You walk past your neighbor's house, and she is dragging a hose around her garden, sweating, squinting, because the sun is brutal and the plants are dying, and she has people coming over at 6. She looks up at you and half jokes, I'd pay someone $10 just to water these for me. And something clicks, you have a free afternoon, you have a hose, you have nothing better to do. So you say, I'll do it for 5. She laughs, says yes, hands you the money, and walks back inside out of the heat with a little weight lifted off her shoulders. You water the garden. 20 minutes. $5 in your pocket. That invisible thing has a name. We call it design, and almost everything you think you know about that word is probably a little bit wrong. So let me show you what it really is, because once you can see it, you cannot unsee it. And the whole made world starts to look different. We are going to figure out what design actually is from the ground up. Then we are going to use one famous man and his stubborn ideas to understand why some design is just better than other design. And then the part I love most, we are going to climb inside your own brain and find out why you cannot help being pulled towards the good stuff like a moth towards a warm light. 3 questions, 1 journey. Let us start at the very bottom. Here is the first thing to get straight, because it trips up almost everyone. Design is not how something looks. I know that sounds backwards. When most people hear the word design, they picture colors and fonts and a nice shape, the decoration sprinkled on top at the end, like icing on a cake that was already baked. But that is not it. That is the smallest, thinnest part of it. Design is the set of decisions about how a thing works and how it makes you feel while you use it. Look is just one of those decisions, and not even the most important one. Let me make that real. Picture a humble pair of scissors. Somebody long ago had to decide 100 things about those scissors. How big should the holes be for your fingers? Which one for the thumb? How sharp, how heavy? Where does it pivot? How much force does it take to close them? Does it suit a left hand or only a right hand? Every single one of those was a choice. A decision made by a person for a reason. And here is the thing that should give you a little chill the first time you really feel it. Everything made by humans was designed by someone making choices. The chair you are sitting on, the cup by your elbow, the road outside, the shape of the spoon, the position of the light switch by your door, the little ridge on the side of a coin. None of it fell out of the sky finished. Every one of them is a frozen pile of decisions made by people you will never meet, who were trying, well or badly, to solve a problem for a human being just like you. And that word, problem, is the heart of it. Design is solving a human problem. The scissors solve the problem of cutting things your hands cannot tear. The chair solves the problem of standing up being tiring. The light switch solves the problem of the room being dark. A thing is well designed when it solves your problem so smoothly that you barely notice the problem was ever there, and a thing is badly designed when it makes you feel the problem all over again, plus a new one on top, like that door, which added the problem of feeling like a fool. Now here is an idea I want you to hold on to, because it is going to come back again and again. Good design is silent communication. What do I mean? A well-made object tells you how to use it without saying a word. It speaks to you, but not in language. It speaks in shape. Think about a regular mug. Why does it have a handle sticking out the side? Because the handle is the mug quietly telling your hand, hold me here. You did not read that anywhere. The shape said it for you. Or a door. A good one this time, with a flat plate on the side you push and nothing to grab, and a vertical bar on the side you pull. You walk up and your body just knows, because the door is talking to your hands in a language older than words. Designers have a lovely little name for this kind of silent talking. They call it an affordance. Do not let the fancy word scare you. It is a simple idea wearing a heavy coat. An affordance is just a hint built into the shape of a thing that tells your body what you can do with it. A handle affords pulling. A flat plate affords pushing. A button that sticks up a little affords pressing. A round knob affords turning. The whole point is that a good affordance works before you think, faster than thought, straight through your eyes and your hands. When the affordance is right, you feel clever. When it is wrong, like the push me, pull me door, you feel stupid. And it was never your fault. It was the design lying to your hands. So now we can already do something most people cannot. We can tell design apart from art, and they are not the same thing, even though they often hold hands. Here is the cleanest way I know to feel the difference. Art exists to make you feel something. That is its whole job, and it answers to no one but the artist. A painting does not have to be useful. It does not have to solve your problem. It can be confusing on purpose, sad on purpose, strange on purpose, and still be a triumph. Design is different. Design has a master, and the master is you, the person using the thing. Design has to work. A beautiful chair that collapses when you sit on it has failed at being a chair, no matter how lovely it looks in a photo. Art is allowed to be only about feeling. Design has to marry feeling to function. It has to be useful and make you feel good while being useful. Art asks, how does this make you feel? Design asks, did this solve your problem? And did it feel kind while doing it? Good. We have ground zero now. Design is decisions about how a thing works and feels. It solves a human problem. It speaks silently through its shape. And it is not the same as art because it has to actually do its job. Hold all of that. Because now I want to bring in one particular person who became almost unhealthily obsessed with getting these decisions right. And through him, the whole idea is going to snap into sharp focus. Picture a sculptor. A real one from centuries ago, standing in front of a huge rough block of marble, taller than a person, white and heavy and shapeless. Out of nowhere, you ask him how he is going to turn that ugly lump of stone into a beautiful figure of a man, and there is an old line, passed down for ages, where a sculptor says something like this. The figure is already inside the marble. My job is simply to chip away everything that is not the figure, until what was always hidden in there is set free. He does not add anything. He takes away. He removes and removes and removes, and the more he removes, the more the figure appears. The masterpiece was never about what he put on. It was about what he had the courage to carve off. Hold that sculptor in your mind because that, right there, is the secret engine behind why Steve Jobs' design was so good, and Jobs was the man who ran Apple, the company behind a lot of the objects that, for many people, were the first things that ever felt like they just worked. He was not the engineer who built the circuits. He was something rarer. He was the one standing in front of the marble, deciding what to carve away. So let us build up his way of thinking, one decision at a time, because once you see the pattern, you will see it everywhere. The first principle is the sculptor's principle. Simplicity reached by subtraction, not by adding, by removing. This sounds obvious until you realize how completely backwards it is from how most things get made. When most companies want to make a product better, what do? They add a feature, then another button, then a setting, then a mode, then a menu inside a menu. Every addition feels like progress because you can point at it and say, look more. And slowly, without anyone meaning to, the thing turns into that remote control we all know, the one with 50 tiny identical buttons, where you only ever use 4 of them, and you can never find those 4 in the dark. Every button on that remote was somebody adding value. And together, they made a thing that fights you. Jobs went the other way. The famous idea he kept circling back to was that you reach simplicity by saying no, by taking the marble down, by asking us again and again, do we really need this? And then carving it off when the honest answer was no. He believed the most beautiful designs were not the ones with the most in them. They were the ones with the least, where everything that survived was essential, and everything that was not essential had been chipped away until it was gone. The figure in the marble. That is why so many of his products had so few buttons that people were genuinely confused at first. Where did everything go? It went into the offcuts on the floor. It was carved away on purpose. Which leads straight to the second principle, and it is the hardest one for any human being to actually live by. Focus, and the power of saying no. There is a thing Jobs said in plenty of forms over the years, the spirit of which was this. Focus is not about saying yes to the good thing in front of you. Focus is about saying no to the 100 other good things, the 1,000 other good things, so that you can pour everything into the few that truly matter. And here is what people miss. It is easy to say no to bad ideas. Anyone can do that. The brutal part is saying no to good ideas. Wonderful ideas. Ideas that would genuinely make money, that smart people in the room are excited about, that you yourself half love. Saying no to those on purpose over and over because they are not the figure inside the marble. That is the part almost nobody has the stomach for. Focus is a kind of self-control that hurts. The third principle changes the whole direction of how a thing gets built, and once you hear it, you will wonder why anyone does it the other way. Start from the human experience and work backwards to the technology, not the reverse. Let me unpack that, because it is the quiet hinge the whole story turns on. Most products get built from the inside out. The engineers build the clever machinery first, all the chips and the wires and the code, and then, right at the end, somebody is handed the finished machine and told, here, wrap something around this so a person can use it. The technology comes first and the human comes last. The person has to bend themselves around the machine. Jobs flipped it. The idea he pushed was to begin with the experience. Begin with the moment a real person in the real kitchen picks the thing up. What should that feel like? What should be effortless? What should they never have to think about? Decide all of that first, in feelings, in moments in the human's day. And only then, with that experience locked in as the goal, go backwards and figure out what technology you need to deliver it. The machine bends around the person instead of the person bending around the machine. It is a small sounding switch in order. It changes absolutely everything because now the human's feeling is the boss and the technology is just the servant trying to make that feeling come true. The fourth principle is the strangest one, and it is the one that tells you the deepest truth about the man. Care about details nobody will ever see. There is a story about Jobs, and the spirit of it is well worn. That traces all the way back to his father. His dad worked with his hands on cars and on cabinets and the like, and he taught his son something that sounds almost foolish at first. When you build a cabinet or a fence, you do not slap cheap rubbish on the back, the side that faces the wall, the part no buyer will ever lay eyes on. You make the back as beautiful as the front. Why? Because you will know. Because a true craftsperson cares about the whole thing, all the way through, not just the face that gets admired. The care goes all the way down into the parts hidden inside, hidden behind, hidden under where no customer will ever look. Jobs carried that into his products with an obsession that drove engineers half mad. He cared about the look of the circuit boards inside the machine, the parts sealed away where no human eye would ever go once the case was screwed shut. He wanted the inside to be beautiful too. And people would say, but it is sealed up, nobody will ever see it. And the answer, the whole philosophy of it, was, I will see it. We will know. And somehow in a way that is almost impossible to explain, you the customer can feel that care, even though you cannot see it. A thing made by someone who cared about the hidden back of the cabinet just feels different in your hands than a thing thrown together to be only skin deep. We will come back to why you can feel that, because that is one of the most beautiful facts about being human, and it is coming up. And the fifth principle is the one everyone wants and almost nobody delivers. Make it just work, two small words. End-to-end craftsmanship, where one company sweats over the whole experience, the way the bits join together, so that the seams disappear and the person never has to think about how any of it fits. You turn the thing on and it works. You connect two things, and they recognize each other. You do not read a manual, you do not change a setting, you do not solve a puzzle that the maker should have solved for you. It just works. That phrase became a kind of promise. And under that tiny, calm phrase sits a mountain of effort, which is exactly where this story is about to take a sharp and surprising turn. Because here is the strange part, the twist that flips everything you would naturally assume. You would think simplicity is the cheap option, the easy one, the lazy one even. Surely the simple thing, the one with fewer buttons, fewer features, fewer parts took less work than the complicated thing crammed with everything it is doing less, so it must have been easier to make. Right, it is exactly the opposite. Simplicity is the hardest and most expensive thing in the entire world to make, far harder than complexity. Let that sit for a second, because it is so counterintuitive that it took the whole world a long time to believe it. Go back to our sculptor with his block of marble, and you will feel why. Adding is easy. Any of us could slap more clay onto a lump, pile it higher, stick on another bit, make it bigger and busier. That takes no courage and very little skill. But carving stone away is terrifying because every cut is final. Once you have chipped a piece off, it is gone forever, and if you carve away the wrong piece, you have ruined the whole block. To subtract well, you have to understand the figure inside the marble so completely, so deeply, that you know with total certainty which pieces are not the figure. You have to understand the thing better than anyone to know what can safely disappear. Subtraction demands more knowledge than addition, not less. That is why it is so rare. It is the same with a product. To pile on 50 features is easy, because you never have to make the hard choice. You just keep everyone happy and say yes to everything and shove it all in the box. But to ship a thing with only the 4 features that truly matter, you have to understand the human so deeply that, with painful certainty, which 46 things to leave out. You have to win 100 arguments. You have to disappoint 100 clever people who each wanted their feature in. Saying no 1,000 times is brutally hard work. Saying yes is the lazy path. So the simple object in your hand, the calm one with the clean face and the 4 buttons, is not the cheap one. It is the expensive one. It is the one that cost the most thought, the most fights, the most discipline, the most things bravely thrown away. Do you feel how that loops back on itself? Each part feeds the next, and the last part feeds the first, so the wheel pushes itself. That's a flywheel. The customer sits right at the center of it, in that empty chair, and every turn of the wheel is really just a way of serving them a little better, a little cheaper, with a little more choice. And because every turn makes the next turn easier, the thing speeds up on its own. But now we hit the truth that makes people's jaws drop. The real twist of this whole story, and it's about money. Here is the strange part. For years and years, this company barely made any profit. Sometimes it lost money, huge amounts, and it did this on purpose. When the business made a bit of spare cash, instead of putting it in the owner's pockets, Bezos took almost all of it and threw it straight back into the wheel. Lower prices, bigger warehouses, faster delivery, new ideas, again and again. Now stop and feel how odd that is. Most people think the point of a business is to make money for its owners as fast as possible. That's the obvious goal, right? You make a profit, you take the profit. But Bezos refused to play that game. He told the people who put money in, right at the start, in plain words, don't expect quick profits. We are going to spend everything on getting better for the customer for a very long time. We are playing the long game. So there they are, laid out plank by plank. A real river, a clear offer, a crowd who can pay, a road that brings them to you, the daily work of letting them cross, and a toll set higher than your cost. Lay those 7 planks down in the right order, and you have not just done a favor. You have built a bridge. You have built a business. But now I have to tell you the twist, because everything I just said is true, and it is still not enough to keep you alive. And this is the part that even clever, hardworking people get blindsided by again and again. So slow down with me here, because this might be the single most important thing in the whole episode. You can do everything right. You can solve a real problem, charge more than it costs, make a genuine profit on every job, and your business can still die, stone dead. And the thing that kills it is not a lack of profit. It is a lack of cash. And those two are not the same, and the gap between them has buried more good businesses than bad ideas ever did. Let me make it real, because this sounds impossible until you see it. Imagine your little gardening round grows. Word spreads down the street. Suddenly a big property up the road. A school, say, wants you to do their whole grounds. Huge job. They will pay you $800. Wonderful. Real problem, fat tall, lovely profit. But to do the job, you need to buy proper equipment and bags of mulch and fuel up front. Let us say $300 today before you start. And the school, being a big organization, says they will pay you in 60 days. After the work is done. After the paperwork clears. So look at what just happened. On paper, you are winning. You are about to make hundreds in profit. Profit says you are healthy. But right now, today, you need $300 you do not have to start a job that will not pay you for 2 whole months. And if you cannot find that $300 today, you cannot start. And if you cannot start, the deal collapses. And the profit that looks so beautiful on paper evaporates. And worse, if you had already spent your last coins getting ready, you are now broke, holding a winning contract you cannot afford to fulfill. That is the twist that kills people. Profit is a story about the past. It tells you whether a finished job was worth doing. Cash is the air you are breathing right now. Cash flow is just the timing of money moving in and out of your hands, when it actually arrives and when it actually leaves. And here is the brutal rule that no spreadsheet softens. Money in your hand today is alive. Money owed to you in 60 days, no matter how certain, cannot pay today's bill. You can be profitable and still suffocate, because the profit is arriving next month and the rent is due this morning. So let me give you the line to carry for the rest of your life. Profit is the goal. Cash is the oxygen. You can survive a long time without much profit. You cannot survive 5 minutes without oxygen. A business that runs out of cash is over, even if every job it ever did was a winner. This is why old, wise business people are almost boring about money in the bank. They are not being stingy. They are guarding the oxygen, because they have felt, at least once, what it is like to win on paper and choke in real life. 2 more quick distinctions while we are down here in the engine room, because they untangle a lot of confusion. Now multiply Maya by millions. Millions of programmers over nearly 20 years, each writing their life's work in this one language, each adding their own gear to the clock. Universities teaching it. Companies hiring for it. Libraries, those are ready, made bundles of code that others built and shared, piling up by the thousand, all of them speaking Kude, all of them free to use, all of them meshing only with NVIDIA's chips. Every one of those is another gear, cut to fit, locked into the machine. Do you feel the moat forming? It isn't a wall made of chips. It's a wall made of habit. It's a wall made of every hour every programmer ever spent learning the NVIDIA way. A rival can copy the chip, Chips can be copied, it's just metal and cleverness. But a rival cannot copy 20 years of the entire world's scientists and programmers, having already learned your language and built their lives on top of it. You cannot buy that. You cannot rush that. You can only grow it slowly, one taught student and one written program at a time. And NVIDIA had a 15-year head start before anyone realized the race was even on. Now, you might be wondering, does that mean every business has to grow huge? No. And this is the difference between a small business and a startup, and people mix them up constantly. A small business is a solid bridge over a steady river, run well, that pays you a good living year after year. The corner bakery, the local plumber, the gardening round with 3 vans. It does not need to conquer the world. It needs to be reliable and to keep its tolls above its costs. A startup is something else. A startup is a bet that you have found a brand new river that millions of people are standing beside, and you are racing to build the one giant bridge across it before anyone else does, often spending borrowed money for years, deliberately, to grow fast enough to own the whole crossing. One is built to last. The other is built to grow fast and find out quickly whether the giant river is even real. Neither is better. They are just different bridges for different rivers. Most of the world, the part you actually walk past every day, is small businesses. Quiet bridges, doing their quiet work. Alright? We have torn the thing down to its bones and built it back up. Now let me give you something to feel, because under all the words, business is a deeply human thing, and I do not want you to forget that. Picture someone. Let us keep it everyman, because it could be anyone, it could be you. A person not rich, not connected, who happens to be good with their hands. They notice that all over their neighborhood, people's bicycles sit rusting on porches with a flat tire or a slip chain unusable, because getting a bike to a proper shop across town is more hassle than it is worth. There it is, the river. A small, real, annoying river that lots of people are standing beside, sighing, doing nothing. So they start the way every real business starts, laughably small. They do not rent a shop. They do not order business cards. They fix one neighbor's bike on the porch for a few coins. That is the first plank. One real problem. One real person. One first toll dropped into a palm. And the bike works. And the neighbor, delighted, mentions it over the fence to someone else who has a flat too. There is the road appearing on its own. Distribution by word of mouth. The cheapest and strongest road there is, because it is built out of trust. Now watch the loop turn. That handful of coins, the first profit, does not get spent on lunch. It gets reinvested. A better pump, a proper set of tire levers, a small box of spare chains, so the next person does not have to wait, create value, capture a slice, reinvest. And each turn of the loop, the bridge gets a little stronger and a little wider. More neighbors cross it. More coins come back. The spare chains mean faster jobs. Faster jobs mean more bikes in a day. More bikes mean more word over more fences. And then comes the quiet magic moment when it stops being a hustle and starts becoming a system. One day, there are more broken bikes than 2 hands can fix. So our everyman does the thing that changes everything. They teach someone else how to do it. They write down in plain steps how to true a wheel and patch a tube, so it gets done right whether they are standing there or not. And just like that, the bridge no longer depends on one pair of hands. It can carry traffic while its builder sleeps. The job has quietly turned into a business. Same river, same trust. But now a system stands where a single tired person used to stand. That is the whole arc, lived out on a porch with grease under the fingernails. One coin, reinvested, again and again, until a favor becomes a bridge that stands on its own. And nothing about that is fancy. And everything about it is exactly how the biggest companies you can name began. One person, one real problem, one first paying customer, and a loop they were patient enough to let spin. So now let me tell you why most attempts do not make it. Not to scare you. The opposite. Because almost every failure is one of just 3 things, and once you can see all 3 coming, you can steer around them. Most people who fail never even knew which river they fell into. The first killer is the one we touched right at the start, and it is the most common and the most heartbreaking. There was no real demand. The bridge was beautiful, and nobody was standing by that river. The founder fell in love with their own clever solution and never properly checked whether anyone, anywhere, actually felt the problem badly enough to pay to make it go away. They built first and asked later. And they ended up with a perfect, gleaming bridge to nowhere, across a river no traveler ever needed to cross. This is why the order matters so much, and we will get to that order in a minute. Find the crowd on the bank before you lay a single plank. The second killer is the one almost nobody respects until it has them by the throat. No road to the bridge, no distribution. The problem was real, the bridge was good, the crowd was there. And they never found it. The founder assumed that if they built something good, people would simply appear. They will not. The world is loud and busy and full of other bridges. If there is no road leading travelers to yours, no way for the right people to discover it, trust it, and walk towards it, then it does not matter how good it is. An undiscovered bridge and a non-existent bridge are exactly the same to the person on the bank. Say it again with me. Building the thing is rarely what kills you. Getting it in front of people who will pay is what kills you. Spend at least as much love on the road as on the bridge. And the third killer is the one we just spent all that time on. They ran out of cash. They lost the oxygen. Maybe the demand was real and the road was good, but they grew too fast, or they let too many customers pay too late, or they spent the early money on things that looked impressive instead of things that kept the bridge standing, and one ordinary morning, there was simply nothing left in the bank to pay what was due, and a living, breathing, promising business stopped breathing. No real demand, no road to the bridge, or running out of oxygen. 3 killers. That is very nearly the whole list. So what keeps a business alive on the other side of all that? More than anything, it is one quiet thing. Trust. When a traveler crosses your bridge and arrives safely on the far side and feels that the toll was more than fair for what they got, they remember, and they come back, and they tell the next person on the bank. Trust is what turns one crossing into 1,000 crossings. It is what makes the road to your bridge build itself, out of word over fences and names passed between friends. A good reputation is just trust stored up over time, paying you back every single day. Lose it once, flood the petunias, take the money and do shoddy work, and travelers stop coming, and no clever sign will bring them back. At the end of the day, a business is not really made of bridges and tolls. It is made of promises kept, over and over, until people stop checking whether you will keep them. Now let me pull all of this together into the part you actually asked for. Not just what business is, but how you build one from scratch in the right order. Because the order is everything, and almost everyone does it backwards. Start from a real problem you genuinely understand. Not the most exciting problem, not the most profitable sounding one you can actually feel in a world you actually know because you have lived near that river yourself. The bike fixer was good with bikes and saw bikes rusting. You waded into the garden because you stood right next to the heat. Begin where you can already feel the water. Then, and this is the step nearly everyone skips, the expensive one, go and talk to real people who have that problem. Before you build a single thing, knock on the door. Ask them about it. Listen for the sigh, the eye roll, the yes, every single week. You are not selling yet. You are checking whether the river is real and whether there is a crowd standing beside it. Real demand whispers to you in the words of real people, long before any money changes hands. If nobody lights up, when you describe the problem, you have just saved yourself months of building a bridge to nowhere. That conversation is the cheapest, most valuable thing you will ever do. Then build the smallest possible version of a solution. Not the grand thing in your head. The tiniest plank that lets one person cross once. The everyman did not open a bike shop. He fixed one bike on a porch. You did not start a gardening company. You watered one garden. Small is not a compromise. Small is the whole strategy, because small is how you find out if you are right before it costs you everything. And then, the moment of truth that separates dreamers from builders, try to get one paying customer before you build the whole thing. One real person who hands you one real coin for the tiny version, because a person who actually pays is telling you the truth in the only language that does not lie. People will say, oh, what a lovely idea, all day long, to be kind. A coin in your palm is not being kind. A coin is proof. Chase the first coin before you chase anything else. It is worth more than 100 compliments. When you set your toll, price on the value you create, not on what it costs you. This is subtle and it matters enormously. The amateur looks at their own costs and adds a little on top. The builder looks at how much better off the customer is on the far side of the bridge and prices against that. The school did not care that the mulch cost you $300. They cared that their grounds looked cared for, and they did not have to think about it. Cost tells you the floor you must not drop below. Value tells you how high the ceiling can go. Live in the space between, closer to the value. Then, the early money. Reinvest it. Do not lift it out to feel rich. The bike fixer bought spare chains, not lunch. The early profit is the fuel that makes the loop spin faster. The better pump, the second pair of trained hands, the road that brings more travelers. Spend it on the bridge, and the bridge will pay you back for years. And as you go, hunt for the repeatable loop, the part that works again and again, the same way every time. The first job is a one-off. The magic is finding the version you can do on Tuesday exactly as you did it on Monday, For a new customer who found you through the same road as the last one, when you find the move that keeps working, same kind of river, same road, same crossing, you stop pushing a boulder uphill and start turning a wheel. That repeatable loop is the difference between hustling forever and owning a machine. The whole time, guard the oxygen. Watch the cash like your life depends on it, because the life of the business does. Keep more in the bank than feels necessary. Be careful about letting people pay you too late. Never let a beautiful winning contract talk you into spending money you cannot get back in time. The graveyard is full of profitable businesses that forgot to breathe. And keep the three killers in front of you the whole way, like signs on the road. Is the demand real? Is anyone actually standing by this river? Is there a road? Can the right people find and trust the bridge? Is there oxygen? Will I still have cash in the bank next month, not just profit on paper? If you can keep answering yes to those three, again and again, you are not gambling anymore. You are building, and that's the part I most want you to take away. This isn't a billionaire secret. It's not a personality you're born with or without. It's a habit, a question, a way of refusing just occasionally when it really matters, to inherit the world's tired answers, and choosing instead to build your own from the ground up, brick by checked brick. Now here's the thing I find lovely, and it's where I want to leave you. A rocket reaching orbit looks like one giant heroic act. But it isn't. It's thousands of tiny ordinary acts stacked on top of each other. One person checking one weld, one person sourcing one cheaper part from a workshop down the road instead of a famous supplier, one hand off between two people who trust each other, repeated 10,000 times. The giant thing is really a vast web of small local connections, people and places near each other, getting one small thing right and passing it along. And that, at the end of the day, is true of nearly every big system in your life. The huge stuff is just the small stuff, close to home, connected well, which is exactly the idea behind Hyperlocal, this project of ours. The whole reason we make these episodes is the belief that your own local world, your street, your neighbors, the people and places right around you, is where the real systems actually live, and that it can connect and work a little better. So if pulling things apart to see how they really work is your kind of fun, come along with us. Subscribe, stick around, and take a look at Hyperlocal, and let's understand the hidden systems behind everyday life together. So here's where we started, and here's where we land. Two people, the same problem. One reaches for what everyone already says, and the problem doesn't move. The other kneels down, asks what it's truly made of, and builds a new answer from the ground up. The only difference between them isn't brains, or money, or luck. It's a single small question asked out loud, when everyone else has stopped asking. What is this actually made of? Ask it tomorrow, just once, about something that matters, and watch a wall turn quietly back into a door. Because at the end of the day, that is all a business ever was. A bridge between a person and the thing they need, built by someone who cared enough to lay the planks, with a small toll that keeps it standing and pays to build the next one. And the wild part, the part I really want you to walk away holding, is that the door has been open the whole time. You do not need permission. You do not need a fortune. You found that out already. All it ever took was $10, a free Saturday, and the nerve to walk across the river towards somebody who needed a hand.